So earlier this morning I was talking about that I wanted to use the willow to make a sort of like a thing to use for fishing. So the piece I cut this morning, once I started looking at it, it was just a little too thick for what I wanted. So I've grabbed that piece of wood here, and what I want to do is use one of these thinner pieces. I think that's going to be better for me. And I want a piece that doesn't have a whole lot of knots in it, because then I'm just going to have to sit here and try and whittle all those knots out. So I think I'm going to choose this section right here. So I'm going to pull out my carving knife here, lock that in place. Now what I want to do is basically just get the bark off of this and get it real smooth, because I don't want any resistance on the fishing line. Cut all these knots off of it, because the knots will get snagged, so I definitely don't want any knots on the wood. So essentially what I'm going to do is this part's just a little bit thicker and this is a lot smooth. Oops, I missed the spot. So I'm just doing this quick, and I hope that I get it good. If I leave any rough spots or anything, the fishing string will catch on that, and then your line might get tangled up, so I don't want that. So I'm just trying to smooth it out a little bit here. So this side feels a lot smoother. Yeah, that's good. And then we have it's a little thicker over here. I'm going to use that as a handle, and then what I'm going to do is just kind of carve like a little notch in this back section. That's where I'm going to secure my fishing string to it, and then I'm just going to kind of narrow this section out, round off the edges, just make sure it's real smooth. And the technique that I'm using right here for rounding the top is similar to what I would use if I'm doing a bow drill spindle, because you kind of want like a pencil eraser top on a bow drill spindle so that it creates the friction, but you don't want it like super pointy. I don't need this pointy, I just want it kind of rounded just so that when I toss it, it works pretty good. Alright, so let's see what feels good. So I got kind of a natural handle right there, place to stick my hand and my thumb. So I think right above that. That's where I'm going to carve my first notch. And like I said, the notch is just going to be to secure my fishing string. This will just make it easier. Like, you could just throw fishing string out with like your hook and your sinker and your bait, but then you're having to try and pull that in, and if the line starts getting taut and you're really trying to drag your line out if it's a heavy fish or something, I mean, you run the risk of potentially slicing your hand, or it's just going to be hard to pull the fish in. This is just going to give me a little edge. Okay, that feels pretty smooth. Alright, Alright, so now I'm just going to take some fishing cord. And don't need anything fancy, just tied a little slip knot. So I'm going to stick the cord in there, or the string. And that's perfect. I got the notch exactly where my thumb's going to be, so I'll be able to hold onto the line to control it when I'm tossing it. Okay, I've got that where I want it. Going to tighten that down. Then I'm just going to put a couple quick knots in it, just so that it holds it in place. Alright, now that's on there pretty good. And I'm just going to clean this up a little bit. Just like so. Put that there for a moment. Now all I'm going to do is I'm going to basically spool this like you would a fishing reel. I have an assortment of fish hooks here. I'm just going to use a medium-sized one. It's not too big, but it's also not too small. Actually, you know, I think I'm going to go a size smaller, because I don't know what kind of fish would necessarily be in the water right now. But I do know that if I use too large of a fish hook, I'm not going to catch a small fish. So if I use a small fish hook, I can definitely catch a small fish, but a small fish hook's also going to catch a big fish. Now I'm just going to grab myself a couple sinkers. I'm going to put a couple medium-sized ones on here just so I can get some weight on this, so I can give it a good toss. And I'll give myself about a foot lead. Alright, so what I have here is a makeshift fishing pole. Okay, so what I'm going to do is once I get it wrapped, I want it So I've got my thumb right here. I'm going to take my index finger, hold that in place. That's going to be the point where I throw from. And I'm going to demonstrate this. So basically I'm just going to take this and cast it right out in the water. So I could do a couple different things. I could leave it out there and let it kind of, right now it's just moving downstream. So I can let it move with the current. I could stick some sort of a bobber device on it. Maybe if I just got a piece of wood and put a little hole in it, I can make myself a slip bobber so I can keep track of that. I could put a lure on the end of this and I could like jig it a little bit. So I mean there's several options I can do. And then when I want to reel it in, or if I catch a fish, I'll just give it a little tug. Then I could pull. I could use this for leverage when I'm bringing in the fish. See? Well, I got a pretty good cast on that actually. Now I'm trying to reel it in before the hook hits that log that's right there. There's a, I don't know if you can see it on the camera, but there's some deadfall right there. I don't want to get snagged up on it. And that's it. Makeshift fishing pole. Just kind of push the hook right into the wood as a safety catch. This thing is highly packable. I could slide this in a pocket. I could slide it in my haversack. I could just carry it. So super lightweight, and basically I've got myself a mechanism for fishing.